assist you with LinkedIn profiles. So NACE stands for National Association of Colleges and Employers. So these are the competencies that they came up with, that regardless of whatever you're majoring in, these are the skills that all employers are expecting for you to have. So as you're doing your classwork, as you are in clubs and organizations and participating in anything, make sure you are learning all of those skills and make sure it's something that we can demonstrate to the customer. So everything with your career starts with Handshake. Handshake is our career management system. This is where you go to search for jobs and internships, and it's also where you go to look at all the events that we have, as well as book appointments with a career counselor. So you can just go into Handshake and click on careers and a career center, and then you can click on either appointments or resources and that sort of thing to find out how to get to us. So one of the main things we talk to students about is activating your Handshake. Once you activate your Handshake, then an employer is able to find you. We're able to find you if an employer say, hey, I'm looking for a freshman or sophomore with these credentials. Can you help me find somebody? Then we can go in and look for you. Your profile will only show up and be visible to us or to employers if it is activated. What does it mean to be activated? Is that you have all your courses, every class you've taken, your courses are in there, your clubs, your organizations in there, your volunteers in there, your skills are in there, your any work, history, volunteer, everything is loaded, and that's how they find you. So this is just a quick shot of how do you book those appointments with us. Like I say, you go into Handshake, click on the Career Center tab, click on appointments, and you can schedule it for the date and time of who you want to speak with. So when we do those career assessments, I use a lot of different things, and I actually use more than this. But the Focus 2 is what we use the most. That's an in-depth career assessment, and we use it for every student, but mostly for those juniors and seniors. I use the stepping blocks in order to find out more about your personality. But learning about your personality helps you to understand why certain careers are careers that are not good for you and which careers are actually better for you based on your personality type. And I do career mapping by combining some of all of these things to help you to understand what you're doing, when and how. So these are the career development stages. Technically, even though you see this broken up into 4 segments, I believe it's possible for every student to do all of these in your freshman year, and I wholeheartedly recommend it. So that first year, you're just learning to get to know yourself, finding out who you are, what you like, what you dislike, and just finding out more about who you are as an individual. Your sophomore year, you're starting to explore more options. Then your junior year, starting to get a little bit more focused because you recognize, oh, I'm running out of time. I need to really start thinking about my career. But honestly, you need to do that as far as I'm concerned in your freshman year, because you have more time to prepare if you get your mind together and you start sooner than later. But that senior year is when you take action. 3 months before you graduate, or at least 2 months before you graduate, you need to know where you're going, what are you going to do. You need to have a job offer already decided. So this is a PC strategy, engagement strategy, and this is checklist that I came up with to help make sure students stay on track for their career journey. So some of these things can be completed in 1 or 2 visits, and sometimes students come in and we can check off many other things. But this is just to make sure you're following suit to knowing what you're supposed to be doing and what you should be doing on a regular basis. So we recommend students visit with us at least once a month so that we can follow up with you. Okay, have you applied for this? What clubs are you in? What organizations? What projects have you done? Who have you connected with? What professional affiliations and that sort of thing. So let's talk about professional image. And professional image is how you are presented, what people think about you when they see you. It's really like your personal brand. So it combines of a lot of things. It's your attire, it's your hygiene, body language, verbal and nonverbal, your attitude and behavior, it's everything, what they see on social media. And other areas, what other areas do you think you can be judged in? Does anybody have any idea? And who's judging you? I'm gonna be honest, everybody is. But whether the way you present is authentically who you are, you can have bad days. You don't always get a second chance to make that first impression. So It's basically what somebody's thinking about you at that time when you're presenting. You should also think about what image you want to project. So if you're thinking about somebody maybe that you like, somebody that you respect, think about how they're presenting. Think about whether or not they present themselves as comfortable and confident. And think about how you want to present. Are you laid back or let it all happen? But find somebody that you respect and sort of emulate that. You can also ask them about mentoring you in business ways to help you prepare for your career. So job interviews are about confidence. Like I said, when you show up to a job interview, it's not just to stand there or sit there and answer questions. You have to understand what they're asking you. So for every question that they're asking you, they're actually looking for 3 or 4 other different things, and not relaying that information the way they are looking for eliminates you from getting to the next round. So when you go in, stand up tall, stand up tall, look people eye to eye, be mindful of what you're saying, and too many hand gestures or moving too much. Are you fidgeting? Are you patting a lot? Are you looking down, or that sort of thing? You want to make sure that you are demonstrating your best professional self. And I like the quote that I put at the end, is whether you believe you can or can't, you're absolutely right. In other words, if you're confident and you believe you can do something, then yes, you can. If you're not confident and you think you're not able to do something, then you're still right. It's whether you have self-confidence that keeps you going. So this is a new platform that we just rolled out this semester within the past month or so. So we're still trying to get our hands on our fingertips underneath it. But it's called BMOC. It's our virtual career system. And it's great for students to upload their regular resume and get it improved. It uses AI, so it'll help you decide whether or not you need to add something or take something off. It'll give you suggestions and that sort of thing. I wrote the templates for the first and second year students, so I know that it works for students. You just have to know it. Doing resumes are about having some self-awareness. So when I work with students, I really prefer you to go there and get started, and then come to me and I can customize it a little bit more for you. But it is an excellent platform, and it also has an interviewer module that if you have to do an interview, you can look at the camera and it'll grade you based on whether you making eye contact, too close, too far away, whether you're fidgeting, using too many padded words, and that sort of thing. So it does the exact same thing with the resume. It's a scoring system of red, I think red, orange, and green. So red means you need a lot of help, orange means you're on the right track, and green means you're doing great. So a lot of students come to me and it's like, I'm trying to get a 100. It's not necessary that you get a 100. You only need to get to the green zone. Green zone means it's a good resume and it's a strong one. So basic information about doing resumes. The top part of the resume is the header. First thing on your resume should be your name, then the city and state, and then your working phone number. So if you have phones that don't tend to stay on, you can get a Google number and put it up there. And then you want a professional email, something with your name. First name, first name, first initial, last name, or a full name with some numbers or whatever you want. If you have personal websites, that sort of thing, add those. But also add your LinkedIn profile, but make sure your LinkedIn profile is public so that they can see you. The next thing on your resume is you start with a sample summary statement. You start with either your major or generic industry title, work your way through a few statements about the value that you add, and then you just kind of close it out. The next thing on your resume is your education. So as long as you're in school, and 1 year after you graduate, you put it up there. Once you start college, your high school comes off. Spell out the degree. Don't just say AAS or AS. You just spell it all the way out. If you have a GPA of 3.0 or higher, you can add it. If not, we just don't mention it at all. And you see I did list the dean's list under there, but some students have a lot of awards and a lot of honors. And sometimes I'll make a completely different heading from them. These are some of the headings or sections, as I just mentioned, that you can put on your resume. It varies student to student. Some students have a lot, some students have little, and some students we have to get creative with. But these are some of the sections that we use. So there are different types of resumes. The chronological, that's where everybody puts all their jobs listed, but that's really just for people who are already established in a career. For students, we tend to use a functional format because it de-emphasizes the experience and concentrate on the skills that you've learned within class or within volunteer, that sort of thing. But for some people, I use a combination resume, which literally combines the chronological and the function. If you have projects and maybe you've done some work or volunteer, then I'll use it all like that. So the basic resume principles, that name is between 14 and 18 font. The body of the resume, nothing less than 11, nothing greater than 12. Use bullets, not paragraphs. Paragraphs are hard to use, hard to read. So make sure that company name is different from the title. One can be bolded, one is not. That first bullet point is the main purpose of what that job was. Illustrate those transferable skills. Make sure every bullet point starts with an action verb, and pay attention to the tense. If it's something that happened in the past, use past tense. And of course, if it's present, then you keep it present. The main thing is don't lie. Just, you don't have to lie, exaggerate. We can tell you what you need. Do you need a cover letter? Absolutely. If you're applying for a job, they're needing a cover letter. The stuff you leave off the cover letter is everything that's in this section right here, these exclusions, because anything on that exclusion area, it's illegal for an employer to ask you, but if you put it on your cover letter, they can't ask you. You set everything up block professional, means everything is aligned to the left. You don't use indentation, the whole paragraph. All the paragraphs go like that. So an elevator pitch, that's what you have when you're first meeting an employer. You walk up and you shake their hands and you're talking about who you are, what you do, what your skills are, what you're interested in. So they call it the elevator pitch, I call it a personal sales pitch, because it's about the time you spend on the elevator going from one floor to the next. So you need to have this elevator pitch practice and down packed, so when you meet an employer, or you're going to a fair, or you meet an employer somewhere else, you can shake their hand and go into your elevator pitch. So I like for students to understand how employers hire. Companies hire for 3 basic reasons. So some jobs actually fit into more than one category, but if you think about what you're being hired for, it kind of gives you a blueprint of how to answer the questions. So they hire to either make them money, to save them money, or for brand recognition and their reputation. So companies will post a job description and they'll bring in applicants and resumes. It goes through an applicant tracking system, which is AI technology that reads the resume or reads whatever documents you put in there, and then that document decides whether or not you'll go to the next level. So the purpose of that resume is to get you to an interview. After it goes through, it goes to a recruiter who looks at it, and then they decide whether or not you're gonna go to the next level. If so, they'll call you and say, let's do a phone interview. And the backdoor checks, people like me, we'll look and see what companies you worked at. If I know somebody there, I'm gonna call them and ask them, do they know you, or have they, did they know of you, or do they know anybody that know you, so we can find out some stuff before we get to the interview. We schedule the interviews. If you make it, we do a background check, we'll make you an offer. So knowing the difference between business and professional makes a big difference. And even though when we were doing what we call a phone interview, it's actually on the computer through Teams or through WebEx. So they do see you. So when we're talking to people, I do check to see, look at what you're wearing. That's business and business professional. This is business casual. So I do want to know, did you dress for the interview? Even though it's just on the screen, if you're not dressed, then that to me says you're not very serious about whatever it is you're applying for, so I let it go. So in some spaces now, these are nice dress sneakers. On the top, they look like regular business shoes, but on the bottom, they're just like a regular sneaker. So that is acceptable, but you have to call and find out what's acceptable as far as that interview is concerned. Again, this is all the different ways. You got the business professional all the way to the business casual to the casual. And in some places, yes, jeans are allowed, but you usually have to wear a blazer. So you want to find out what is available. When you're interviewing, keep your answers short and succinct, no more than 2 minutes. Avoid yes and no. When you're asked a question, answer the question in a full sentence. Try to avoid using the but and however, because it kind of negates whatever you're saying before. Try not to do a lot of padding, don't apologize for lack of experience, but instead concentrate and emphasize the skills that you do have and what you're capable for doing for them. So you always want to study the announcements, and if you come to us, we can tell you pretty much by reading the job description what they're looking for, and we can tell you what they're gonna ask you. So just when you go in, you make sure you take your pen and paper because you wanna write notes as they're talking to you. So interviewing as a neurodivergent, we do have some students that are neurodivergent and students who participate in access and accommodations, and even those who don't sometimes have problems interviewing. Come to us and we can work with you one-on-one about how to do the training that you need in order to be considered as a real candidate. Should you negotiate your salary? It depends. 80% of students and grads who negotiate are at least are able to get something. You know, if you go in, this is your first job, you've never worked, don't have any experience, you don't have anything to negotiate, because other people that's gonna be coming in are gonna have that skills and stuff. So we like to talk about how to negotiate, when to negotiate, and what to negotiate. So wait until the appropriate time to discuss. You don't go in and work 2 weeks like one student did and came back and asked me, can I negotiate myself? I said, you haven't been there for 2 weeks, you haven't even passed the probation period. Let's get through that first and show them that you're a serious worker. So there are times when you know you can't take a job simply because it doesn't pay you enough to live your life. So if that's one of those things, then you can't do it, but if it is, then go ahead and take it. So expectations of AI. I just told you earlier how we use AI in different forms in career services. So in your classroom, AI, they expect you to do your own work, to use your own thinking and your critical thinking skills. So, but there is a time for AI. So if you think about this, how many people have used ChatGPT for school? A lot of people do. But if you learn to use it as a resource and not a crutch, then that's a good thing, because employers are expecting you to know how to use AI. But they're not expecting you to just go in and say, write this paper for me. Come up with an answer for this. You have to learn those critical thinking skills. Remember, that was one of the skills that was listed in that NACE competencies. You have to be able to think. You want to make sure that you can use it maybe to double check some things that you're doing. But honestly, if you're using the free versions of things, then and instead of paying for the premium versions, you can get information that is wrong. Don't trust the links. Don't trust the resources at the end of it, because they're oftentimes very, very wrong. So what is ChatGPT or AI good for? Effective with simple information, simple math problems, explaining Excel or explaining something basic, catchy titles and that sort of thing. If you're trying to come up with a catchy title, maybe you're in a club and you might say, you know, we're doing this workshop or we're doing this event, give me a catchy title. It can do that. But it messes up with you as far as critical thinking and writing your papers, because it's going to sound robotic and it's not going to sound like you. And after a while, the teacher gets to know your writing style and how you think, and they'll know if it's not something you came up with. It's good for summarizing an article, summarizing a book, pulling resources, and provides plagiarized work. It can tell on you if you're doing plagiarized work. There was one student at my campus that were charging other students to do papers for them. The thing is he was using ChatGPT for all the papers. He wasn't reading it, he wasn't checking it. He was just putting it in, doing all these students' papers. But you know what happened? Several of the students had the exact same paper because he wasn't even reading it, he just put it in. So if everybody's using ChatGPT, the free version, guess what? Everybody said the same thing. So yeah, all of them got in trouble and he got kicked out. That's the way it goes. So AI in the classroom, pros and cons: speed, engagement, improvement, organization, personalization. Cons: you get dependent on it. It's a data security issue. As a matter of fact, if you go back and look at Georgia State's statement on AI, it'll tell you not to use AI on Georgia State's computer when you have other things open, because you're opening yourself, you're opening up the school to stuff like data security breaches. And then you can end up, you know, having somebody infiltrate, do the phishing, grabbing emails and background information and personal information, and next thing you know, we got a serious data breach on our hand. But, there's not a lot of originality. Some of the information will be incorrect, and then you get hit with cheating and plagiarizing. So basically, you have to be careful with AI. Types of harm: physical, sexual, psychological, emotional, financial. You never believe everything that's online. That's the problem. People think, well, if it's on the internet, it's gotta be true. No, chances are it's not. But you can open it up yourself to a lot of issues using it if you're not careful. When to use it. Students use technology to get the assignments done faster and easier. Yeah, you can. This can be good or it can be bad. So you have to think about how you're using it and when you're using it. Make sure you're using it morally and ethically. Make sure you're not giving out too much information, and make sure that you are not allowing it to think for you. So these are the events that we have for this semester, which of course is about gone. It's about gone, but we still have a few that's left. These we had to reschedule, but we're gonna reschedule those a bit soon. We don't have it here, but at Dunwoody and Clarkson, we have a full-scale career center. So we do have a career closet for students who need professional attire, and we both have an iris booth for students to come and get professional headshots. Atlanta has one that all students can use, and it is done through Shopify, so you can go online, look at what you want, order it, and they can send it to you. The only thing is you can't try it on. Now this internship just wrapped up and ended, but I do want to tell students about it because it'll start again next year. And this is an apprenticeship program with AIG. And the way it works is it's a 10-month rotation. And they'll start interviewing again, I believe, in December or next January. So it's a 10-month rotation. It's about 20 hours a week. You go into the company and you'll work in 10 different units of that company until you decide where you'd like to work. They do like for you to do a 2-year commitment because what they're looking for is to onboard you as a full-time employee, and they look for sophomores, students going into their sophomore year. This is summer internships at Bank of America. You see they have a lot of things there. The blue side are internships that are at Coca-Cola, so you might want to look at some of those. And the FIFA World Cup will be in the United States next year, and you can see all the internships that are available there. Okay. But I just want to say thank you so much for inviting me. I really appreciate it. And if anybody has any questions, you can always email me. My email address is